Didn't see them for years. Didn't talk to them for years. Tony I would talk to every now and again. I'd phone up Tony and say, you know, aren't we earning money? What's going on? And he'd go, oh, I don't know. I phoned John and he said, well, I'll talk to Dick and get him to send you something, you know, whatever, which one? And in the later years, it was when John's wife Sherry was dying, and someone told me, and I phoned John and I said, look, I'm sorry mate, and he said, look, I'm coming to London, let's meet and let's have dinner. We haven't spoken for years. So I ended up starting a studio in his house out in Marbella, and I used to go out for 3 weeks out of every 5. We never made any money, but as he said, just, you know, not long before he died, we had all these people out here, and how come we didn't make any money? I mean, I took Rob Davis out of Mud, who then went on to write Kylie's Can't Get You Out of My Head and all that stuff. In fact, we were out in Marbella in John's studio, in his bedroom, in one of his 12 spare bedrooms. The day the phone call come through and said, Can't Get You Out of My Head's #1 in England. But John being John, then he built another huge building down the garden for the studio. But that was John. But he became like a really, really good friend. Really good friend. We'd argue from 1967 to the day he died, we argued. Tony, I'd hear from him if he needed something, or he'd hear from me if I needed something.
A business thing.
Yeah. But we'd see each other. You know, I'd come up to see him in town and we'd go and have lunch, and it's like there wasn't any animosity, but it wasn't like the first person I'd dial if I was coming into town.
I know that he had a huge amount of respect for you, how instrumental you were in that early phase of the band, because those guys couldn't have done it without you.
But that's natural, isn't it? It's because if they ever did that, they have to show their own shortcomings. And in those early days, they were monkeys.
Did you see, did they develop into, they well obviously had great careers by the end of it, didn't they? I mean, they developed into good music people.
I think they learned to surround themselves with very good people. I think Tony's thing with John Craig was what he was basically about. Show things, and that was really what Tony understood. If you think about the acts that both of them signed afterwards, I mean, apart from the White Snake, which basically came from, they got involved with lots of bands that, but the one thing I will say from them, they looked after their acts, and they really looked after their acts, be it financial or care or whatever.